We had mentioned that the prophet tells us that the objective of creation is l'chvodi barosiv. I've created this existence for my glory, for my honor. What does that mean? God means nothing, but what it means that if the human being who's a creature of choice, endowed with intelligence, endowed with insight, endowed with the ability of retention, and uses those faculties to make the right choice. And what is the right choice? To recognize within creation and within your obligation as a human being to submit to the will of God, and only because you acknowledge his glory, because you acknowledge who he is, then there's a basis for a relationship. This is very important. There's a positive commandment in the Torah, and the way it's expressed, v'yoresa me'Hashem Elokecha. You should fear God. Would you just one moment? So there's a positive commandment. V'yoresa me'Elokecha. You must fear God. Now, the word fear could be understood in two contexts. Either fear, being afraid, because since God is the master, he has the ability to punish. As he has the ability to reward, he has the ability to punish. And if you don't conform and adhere to his will, he'll punish you. It's like a person lives in the society, you break the law, you're punished. God sets the law for all humanity, you cross the lines, which is called transgression, you're punished. But you realize that's not what God wants. That the reason why you're doing the right thing is because you're afraid to be punished. Because the word fear could also mean reverence. You should revere God. What's the difference between reverence and fear? What is fear based upon and what's reverence based upon? Fear is, I understand that your reaction could be very painful. I don't want to be subject to your reaction, which is called punishment. But you understand, why am I doing the right thing? Because it's not worthwhile to do the wrong thing. It's not because I have a recognition of the right and who is commanding me to do the right. It's because I'm only concerned about myself. And the downside is not worth, therefore I'm sticking to the upside. So it's all self-investment. However, if Yoresa means you revere God, why am I adhering to his will? Because I recognize who you are. And if a person has a semblance of understanding who God is, you understand you're privileged. One doesn't need any coercion or any prodding to do his will. A person is self-motivated because that's the ultimate privilege and opportunity, is to do his will, to have a relationship with him. So one is more selfless and the other one is selfish. If I'm doing it because I'm afraid to be punished, and the alternative is the upside, I go for the upside because it's my best interest to go for the upside rather than downside. So that's self-absorbed. So it has nothing to do with God for God. It's God for me. But when a person serves God because you recognize who God is, and that's reverence, why am I serving God? I'm serving God because of God, because I understand who I am, I understand who he is. Therefore, I submit to his will, understanding the value of doing his will. So if a person serves God out of reverence, what is the basis for that connection? I understand who you are. I appreciate who you are. I want to have a relationship. That's what it's based upon. If it's based upon want to have a relationship, that's exactly what it's all about. I've created this world for my glory, meaning, and ultimate, what is the reward for that glory? Sharing the world to come. What's the world to come? A relationship with God, which is the infinite being, who's the source of absoluteness in every aspect of the word, and goodness Good in God is absolute. So you merit the absolute. But when do you merit that absolute? When you recognize that absolute. And that's reverence. This is a whole different understanding. So when we speak about L'chvodi Barosiv, I've created this world for my glory. Either you recognize my glory or it's not going to be good for you. But minimally, you have to recognize my glory. For whatever reason, you may have an ulterior motive. The ulterior motive is you don't want to be punished. Or the reason is no ulterior motive. Is you truly recognize who I am and you recognize my glory, and therefore you being a beneficiary of everything that I will, therefore you're committed to do whatever my will is, understanding that that's the ultimate value of my existence, my purpose. It's so fundamental in understanding the two individuals. Two people could serve God with similar fervor. The question is, well, where's that fervor emanating from? Is it emanating from you for you? Or is it emanating because you're so motivated, because you understand what it means to be privileged to serve the one who's the creator, who endowed you with all your abilities and whatever you are, at every level of opportunity. Or juxtaposes the suspected adulteress who actually committed adultery to the Nazarite who's not permitted to drink wine. Because what happens to the woman if she claimed she was innocent and ultimately she did commit adultery and she undergoes the sota process, the Kohen adjures her and she drinks this combination of the rid of the sota being obliterated into the water. What happens is something which is miraculous, but it's the most grotesque sight to see. She swells, she bursts, and her body, she becomes dismembered. When you see that, you could understand what divine justice is. So it says, what should you do? You should become a Nazarite. Why? Because how do you think this adulterous relationship started? Think they right away they got involved together? No. They went out there to drink, glass of wine, the socially. Took her a client out, they had a drink, they talked, they liked, had another drink, ultimately it led to this, to adultery. So therefore the Torah is telling us, you want to know something? You got to swear off wine. Because wine is the beverage that brought this all about. So become the Nazarite. So I asked the question. So just take an oath, you're not going to drink wine. Make a vow, you're not going to drink wine. What do you have to become this Nazarite? You're not permitted to contaminate to the dead. You're not permitted to cut your hair. What do we need all this? If the crux of the problem is the wine is off limits. It's like, a person has an alcoholic problem, goes to AAA, Alcoholics Anonymous. That's it. So why? The answer is no. Because you have to enter in a state of Nazaratehood to understand and have a sensitivity what it means to be more spiritual. It's creating a new persona. You're removing yourself from the material realm, going into a spiritual realm. I don't contaminate to the dead. I don't drink wine or any grape derivative. Eat it. I don't cut my hair. When you're in a state of holiness, you see things, and things which normally don't resonate all of a sudden start resonating with you. To appreciate and internalize the ramifications of drinking wine and what it means to commit adultery, a person doesn't have that full appreciation in terms of how negative it is and what things could lead to unless you go into that state, that mindset. That's what it's about. It's called orientation. You need an orientation. To have an appreciation of God, you need an orientation. And it's a very specific orientation. To be able to revere him, to have a glimpse of what he is, rather than he is what I need, but rather he is what he is. And because that's what I want. So only through that, and you have role models, and they mentor you, and they represent that, then you start having an appreciation, a glimpse, because you have a glimpse of what it is. You may not be that because you're not there, but you know it exists. And you respect it, and you appreciate it, because you appreciate, respect the people who represent that. Those are the role models.